Work session to order, being June 11, 2024, 3:01 p.m. Item 2, invocation will be given to us by Councilmember Mata. All those wishing to join us for a moment of prayer can do so by standing up voluntarily. Councilman?
Father God, we thank you for this day you've given us, Lord Jesus. And we thank you for the time that we have together, Lord. We just pray that, Father God, your presence will be here, Lord, and that, Lord, you may just be able to give us the wisdom that we need, Lord, to make the right decisions, Lord. And I just pray for blessing to be upon each and every one here this afternoon, Lord Jesus. And, Lord, special thank you for the rain that we had yesterday, Lord Jesus. We just can thank you, Lord, for that blessing, Lord, that's refreshing. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. May be seated. Everyone in the back, can you hear us appropriately in the back row? We're going to move on to item 3, discuss the city manager's recommendation for Odessa Police Department, Police Academy, and Training Department. Mr. Beckmeyer?
Okay, I handed out the report to everyone, and when you have some time, go over it, but I'll hit some high points. The task force was very impressed. Let me back up a little bit. So we just looked at one aspect so far of the PD, and that was pretty much training in the academy. And the task force was very impressed with what they found and the different procedures that they went through and what's going on there. Our academy offers more than what I'll probably say it wrong, but yes, TCOL and other organizations generally provide. That's a good thing. I mean, that's what we're shooting for, is to have an elite force here. The average cost outside to non-police or charged by non-police organizations is normally around $3,300 for the same certification, but again, it's not to the level that ours is. The accumulated cost per student, and it's broke down in here for ours, and I'll get to why this is important in a little bit, is around $8,429. We have 100% pass rate on our test, and that's due to we practice a lot, we practice the testing a lot, and we have instructors doing a good job teaching. And that's to the PD's credit. They take time with each of the students, and a lot of this is coming from kind of anonymous or random interviews with people that have been through the academy. Let's see if there's anything down here before I get into some of the high-level recommendations. Again, we provide more than TCOL requires. So a few of the real high recommendations from a high level, and y'all can drill down a little bit more in the packet. We haven't got to go through all of them with the chiefs yet because I just looked at it today. But after we go through them, if there are some that the council needs to make changes for, we'll come back for those. But to hit on a real high level, we believe the academy and training needs its own budget. We need to be a little more proactive in going out for grants because they are available there. The PD does a good job of getting grants, but there's more out there, and we can enhance it even more. We may need to look, one of the requirements was we may need to look at when we go out to try to train other municipalities or counties more than what we are now, that there may need to be some kind of charge there to recoup some of the some that we expend, whether that would be full or whether that would just be agreed, you're getting this kind of value, but we're not going to charge. We've talked about that quite a bit. Where it comes down to the per cost per student, I really at some point would like to initiate service contracts. We've talked about it in the past. I think there's been a stab at it in the past, but not followed through very well. It's not uncommon out in the market to do this. And so that's some more negotiations and talks with the chief that we'll get into. One of the reoccurring things is maybe a little bit stricter physical requirements, safer for the trainees, safer for the public. And that's pretty much on a high level what they did. But all in all, it was very favorable. The feedback from the random interviews was very favorable. And again, we'll enter into some talks with the chief and all now that we have the report on this about some of the recommendations that moving forward. And that's pretty well it. There's not really any action. Just wanted to make this available to you all. If you look at the numbers too, part of what they looked at as a measurement, if you look back in there, and this is public, it can be made available to anybody. You look at that pass rate on the page where it says TCOL pass rate comparison. We're right up there at 100%. Some of our sister type cities of the same size, they'll be right in there at 100% also, but then some of them are not. One of the things that I thought was really good, and again, this is credit to the leadership that we have. A few pages over, there is something on retention rate, and police officer turnover rate for 2023 is around 14%, and our certified police officer staff turnover rate's about 7%. And that's due to the leadership and due to the work that you all have done to get salaries up there at a good comfortable wage. So if you look also at the page before that at the colored chart, and we should have probably numbered some of these. If you look, we're down considerably in person-on-person type crime.
Yeah, I'm looking at these numbers. Chief, real quick, ask that question real quick. I don't want to get too much into the weeds of this, but is this it says per 1,000, this crime rates against person per 1,000? So what we're seeing the chart in front of us, the one below us, is this in the last April to March of this year, right?
Quite honestly, Mr. Mayor, I don't have that
Okay.
chart from you.
Okay.
Okay.
And Kayla can probably answer more questions than I could ever get close to.
Right, so it's April of last year till March.
Right to this year. Was it that 242 in April? Is that the amount of reported call outs?
It would be the reported crimes.
Okay. Okay.
And where for all cities, the average decline is at 28. We're at 41.
Mr. McMyer,
Yes,
you mentioned grant writing. I'm all about grant writing. Any way we can obtain financial assistance. Do we have a full-time grant writer in the city or not?
we do not. Y'all don't have a grant writer
So,
specifically.
not specifically. The employee that we have, she's amazing at helping out with grants, but she does other things also. She's our budget analyst. She helps
Yeah.
out with our time.
That
But yeah.
That being said, Kaylee's finance is going to come and ask for that position, a financial grant writer, where that's what they do.
Right.
And we have sold ourselves short on the grant. the grant world, if you will,
Yep.
by not having that. We've checked into some services that would do it, but we feel like we'll be better served having someone on staff that's their job, is to research grants, write grants, and keep up with the reporting and all, because that's pretty huge too.
I think that's good to know.
Yes.
Chief Kirky, how many officer positions do you have vacant right now?
Depends on how we look at the number of positions that we have. I mean, as we close down, we close down some to provide, the raises.
Raises.
at the beginning of the year.
I guess I'm talking about traffic patrolling.
So, generally, in our traffic unit, we have 5 officers in traffic, we have, roughly 60 on patrol.
Okay. Thank you.
The remainder of our officers will be, investigators and, rank and training and that sort of thing.
To answer that question on the grant writing, we're in up in Alpine.
Yes, council, we had a meeting with the city of Alpine, the mayor and the city manager, and the grants writer was discussed during that meeting, and they have some possible resources that they will, a list of resources for a grant writer, and they're familiar with, and so they're gonna provide that information to us, and we'll forward that information to.
As we discussed it with them, a small town Alpine was able to get a lot of resources. They had a grant writer, but one of the things that the grant writer that applied for the position and been there, one of the things they didn't want to do is they didn't want to manage the grant once it came in, which there's a lot of paperwork after you receive it. And he said, well, I really don't feel I want to do that. So, well, then why'd you apply for the job, was my thought. So when you go into an individual, you have to find individuals willing to follow through the grant, and several grants at that.
Correct.
Or you go to a company that's supposed to do that. So there's upside and downside on both. You know, the thing is that it's been amazing how difficult it's been to be able to find someone. But City Secretary has a very good relationship with a lot of these sister cities in our TML region. And so they're going to get together and get some of that information, try to help us. It's just been amazing of how I know we contacted some at TML, and then some things worked out and didn't. So there is some organizational culture. You know, what I like to read here real quick for some of the things that you know, and this is not set in stone, but I want to be able to give. What they found was this was a legitimate inquiry. And now I will read this. Does not indicate a status of overall poor morale within the OPD. Keep that in mind. So the salary increases have contributed to good morale for the police officers. Many respondents stated that the training department meeting all their increased their on-job happiness. The emphasis on each individual's training made them feel valuable, capable of finding successful career paths. There are a few issues of morale that should be considered. Feedback on fixed shifts, could potentially be reducing job satisfaction. In some cases of mental health, communication with command staff does not reach all ranked officers, changes with individuals. These are just some of the recommendations that was discussed. So I think that really was a good response. You know, one of the things that you yourself, Chief, and the staff really looked at that and was able to look within the departments, eliminated some of the positions and the ranks to be able to provide that. So this is a good direct result. So congratulations on that.
Well, if I can add, the other result that has come from that is just a total increase in number of applications we've received also.
Good.
Those have really gone up dramatically.
Good. So if you go down to, these pages are not numbered, but the second to the last, there's some of the observations. It talks about the 269 applications that I've received, 4% entry rate. Also talks about the overtime for fiscal year 24, 166 officers, average 11,683 per officer. There's some very good information.
And around overtime, we'll have some better numbers probably in about a week with some of the changes that have been made, that the chiefs have made inside OPD, and that'll give us a little more direction. We know the hours have dropped significantly for overtime, but when you couple that with fairly significant pay raises, that doesn't mean that the dollars drop significantly. So it's something that, as we're going through the budgets right now, that we're looking at very closely.
Okay. Have we ever, has the city of Odessa ever done any type of review like this? Type of analysis with
Not
the
since I've
task
been here.
force? Chief, have you ever done anything like this?
Absolutely not.
Oh,
No, this is
is
the
really
first time
good.
I've seen anything like this.
This really gives us a real good scenario of what's going on and good feedback.
Whenever we're done with the police department, and again, the ladies can't say enough good about the interactions, you're gonna have a book, because this is just one department. You know, we haven't even looked at administration or patrol, the different, the different levels. So it's gonna be a book.
Yeah. It's a
Really
good
is.
start. It's a good start. Council, any questions? I'll open up the dais. Any questions, concerns, any comments, opinions on the report? Anything that we need to continue and bring? Do we need to bring this back at a future work session if we get more numbers in? We want to see that. Good stuff.
What we may be able to do is at a future work session, when we give the report on another area, is follow up them with what we did on this area based on the recommendations when the chief and I sat down.
When are we having the retreat?
That is July 16th.
I think it'd be a good time to do it then. We have a little more time. I don't want to extend in the last meeting because I think that list for the 25th is already long for the work session, the agenda. So I think it'd be a good time to bring it back at the retreat and discuss it then.
If y'all want to, sure.
Council, what do you think about that?
Sure.
Do it at the retreat. Any other questions? Chief, I appreciate you. Thanks.
Again, I don't believe there's gonna be much anything that'll take action, but it'll give y'all a good idea of where we came down with the recommendations.
Good stuff in there. We're going to move on to item 4, discuss the issuance of requests for qualifications, RFQs, for on-call architecture, engineering, land services, and request for proposal RFP on on-call electrical, HVAC plumbing services. Ms. Burns.
Yes, good afternoon. So we will be issuing 3 requests for qualifications for on-call services for architectural, engineering, and land surveying, and 2 requests for proposals for on-call services for electrical and HVAC plumbing services. The selected firms will be placed on an on-call list, which will allow us to enter into contracts with said firms for services as needed. We're proposing initial terms of 1 year with the option to renew for an additional year. And when these on-call services agreements are approved, we will also limit or place a not to exceed amount threshold for each service, as well as for each firm or contractor, to make sure that we're rotating through those or through that list. This process will save the city time and money, which will limit the need to prepare additional RFQs, limit the need for additional meetings, as well as having to publish additional legal notices. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Council, any questions?
So this is just for emergencies, right?
Not necessarily just for emergencies. These are for smaller type projects.
Yeah. Not a major project.
Yes, not major projects. That's correct.
So how many, how many people are you looking for? How many companies?
We're looking for 3 to 5 for each, but it'll also depend on what we receive.
I think it's a real good proactive measure, so thank you
Yes, of
for
course.
pushing this.
And in speaking with some of these can be companies that maybe couldn't handle a big road project, but they're still very good and can handle these smaller projects. And it's a real good deal to get multiple local vendors involved.
Yes, this will open it up to some companies that maybe we haven't worked with previously, but that are interested in providing services to the city.
Just give us a moment, just going through this page by page. We got the boycott against Israel, permits and licensing. Ms. Burns, who prepared these?
I did, as well as Marissa. We did get feedback from multiple departments, including development, building services, Parks and Rec, and engineering and utilities.
So who came up with the general, okay, for example, general conditions? What was the template that was used to come up with this? Was it something within past policies, procedures? Did we get it from other cities? Did we get it from trade manuals?
We did look at examples from other cities, and then also we used our template, our RFQ, RFP template.
How old was that template?
Let me call Marissa. She might know more.
Hello. Those templates would be within the last year or two.
Okay. Firm information qualifications, provide information, relevant project experience. 3 references projects have been completed by a firm within the last 10 years, or the last 2 years of these projects completed with the last 5 years. Everybody get that? Mm-hmm. Demonstrate how these projects in the same or similar type of project associated with service listed 1.3. Project approach and methodology. Qualifications shall demonstrate how the firm successfully implemented projects, methodology pertaining to at least 3 projects from the list described in section 1. Team qualifications, organization chart. 10 key members. Reason why I'm asking, and if this was a method that we used 2 years ago, and this is a template, and I'm not pointing the finger at anybody, but some of the things that we experienced, we used these qualifications for a company that did a road project. Everybody remembers this one? This was the one on Dixie from 54th Street to 46.
Nightmare.
Okay, and so that's why I'm asking, when we wind up doing RFQs and we wind up putting these things in, my question is that oftentimes we include or exclude, but we wind up bringing in a company that checked on the boxes, but in real world we're not unable to perform. Everybody here got multitude of calls, and one thing what we realized is that they couldn't perform the work, and this work just lagged on, and I don't think we even recovered damages because they were overdue. This is why RFQs are good. Also, remember, it's a double-edged sword because RFQs, we brought in this company, and I don't think that any of us really have an appetite to go back with this company. And they fought really hard to try to get in, and they did get in and then failed miserably. But it wound up being at a very costly expense, time-consuming, and it really affected that neighborhood for quite some time. So always caution when we wind up doing these. Trust but verify. That's why I'm asking these questions.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
so if you put a time limit of how long you've been in business, would that help on these RFQs?
Well, I don't know. I don't think there's anything. I don't think you can put it.
Because the RFQ stands for qualifications.
Yeah.
So
Well, another one is one that we discussed a lot. Well, people have discussed me. Companies that wind up doing the water taps. There's oftentimes about how expensive the water taps are here locally. I think we're averaging over $10,000 a tap. There is and this is some years back. I'm not sure if this exists now, but I'll be corrected after this meeting if I'm wrong. There was a committee within Public Works and Utilities that reviewed which companies got into doing the taps, but there was no form, from what I understood. So you had to have 7 years previous municipal experience, so no one knew was getting in. And because of that stipulation, but yet never saw anything on paper because we requested it. And so basically it was there was only a select that were doing it, and it kept costs high. I don't know, we're still operating under those conditions, but I still recall 3 years ago, there were several calls about that as we were expanding, and many of the Beaton Bow and D.R. Horton build out. There was a lot of calls, there were a lot of companies trying to get in. To our surprise, that we wind up asking sister cities for the cost of the tap-ins. We were extremely high, and we tried to discuss that, but I don't know if we ever made any headway. But it's there's just conditions that we wind up putting. We're not administrators, so we only learn of these as we contractors, citizens, and people to discuss with us, and we ask questions. Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, part of the reason for this process is to eliminate those problems. We're creating a list of people that we can actually vet. We don't have a project out there for them to come work on right now. We can actually vet these, have them trusted on this list, this on-call, which made me think just emergency, but I'm learning. This list where we don't end up with those situations that you addressed in the very beginning. We have time with this because they're not up against a wire ready to do a project. Christina and her people can go out and say, okay, what is the history? Have they done a good job? And you're not just checking a box on an RFQ. This work's done ahead of time, and they're qualified.
Yeah, when we wind up going to architectural and engineering, we always kept going and asking out for RFPs and RFQs, and we kept come back with just 2. And it was like, hey, here comes our regular 2. I goes, how many we sent out? And there was always a high number, but it was always coming back 2. And so we always kept questioning that process, and we always try to ask for a list. Well, can we see the list that you sent it out, and can we see the qualifications? And it was always very vague or very slow. And so this is why it's just some of the things that we've experienced here in the past, and just trying to make sure that everything's a level playing field. Council, do we have any other questions? Or do we have any questions? I'm sorry, misspoke there.
I do have one. Traditionally, the RFI is primarily your first step, and you're feeling comfortable with the information that's being gathered with the RFQ.
Yes, we are. And as Mr. Beckmeyer mentioned, so we'll get a range of firms apply, even say, for example, engineering, but each firm has their strengths. So if our Public Works Department is looking for something drainage related, they can go with that engineering firm that has a stronger skill set in drainage. So it just does allow more flexibility depending on the project.
Personally, this is on an individual basis, but I think it would apply for a city basis just as well. If I'm going to do or purchase something from a business, I'll check the BBB with their name. I just Google BBB and the company's name, and it's a lot of times I have not purchased. So I would imagine a semi-major contractor is going to be, that information is going to be resourceable through that avenue?
Yes, and we will vet them through an evaluation process. So we do have those evaluation criteria, but we also have the option of bringing them in for interviews if we would like to do so.
This is truly the proactive steps that we haven't always got to do in the past.
Based on our experience, Mayor, my first thought is that it's back to Dixie. They had to redo the grade once at least because they missed the grade. Maybe because these are not really emergencies, but just stuff we need to get done pretty quickly. Maybe engineering or inspection needs to be a little more involved with these projects, and as far as inspections are concerned, so that we don't have situation like we had on Dixie, which...
What about the back of curb on Fodry?
Yeah.
Didn't we have issues there?
Where?
Back of curb on Fodry. Didn't we have back of curb issues on Fodry or something like that when we were having the construction and we wind up...
Yeah.
have it not a straight shot, but a
Yeah, winding around. Yeah. So man, that's just a thought. I mean, because again, they're not gearing up for a big project, so they're just, it's just a hot shot deal is what it boils down to. And we just need to take a little more active role in making sure they're getting it done like we want it done. I mean, it wouldn't have been hard once that, I guess that's maybe how we found it. I don't know, but that grade was wrong on Dixie, and they had to go dig it out and redo it. That cost a lot of time. So we got to figure out some way to make sure, HVAC or, plumbing services, that we have inspectors. I mean, we've got to get them more active maybe. Maybe that's the solution on this particular type of thing.
Right, and that's what we talked about pretty extensively whenever we talked about Floyd Gwynn. In all projects, we have to be more active, and I've been pretty clear with finance that I don't sign off unless I've got a good feeling from them. We just don't pay.
Yeah.
Until we know that we've been active, our people have looked at it, and it truly is what we asked for.
Well, it's Floyd Gwynn, it's Splash Pad down at McKinney, the Jurassic Park, at UTBB. That's just 3 right there that we're dealing with issues because exactly of that. Okay. Any other questions on item number 4? Nothing on surveying, engineering, architectural. All right, we're going to move on to item 5, discuss the issuance of the request for qualifications RFQ for performance-based contracting services, water treatment plant improvements. Ms. Burns.
Yes. So per our discussion at the last council meeting, we are issuing a request for qualifications for a performance-based contract or performance-based contracting services for improvements at the Bob Darrington wastewater treatment plant. The scope of work for this project will include an evaluation of the existing facility conditions and efficiencies, design and engineering services, installation services, training of existing personnel on the operation and maintenance of the installed systems, guaranteed outcomes such as project cost and project financial performance, and monitoring of operational related costs and systems. The RFQ will be open for 4 weeks with submissions due on July 11th, and we have an anticipated award date at our July 23rd council meeting.
Council, any questions?
Yes, I got a question. On this RFQ, are we allowing both ESP and ESCOs? There's 2 qualifications. There's 2 different distinctions. I just want to make sure. Are we going to allow both of them to be able to submit RFPs?
I'm not sure I understand, and I don't know, Alex.
Can you ask
if
that
you
question
can-
again?
Is it?
So yes, I just want to make sure that we're not going to leave anybody out.
No,
the
definitely.
process.
And we did look into it. We edited it because we do want to actually invite anyone who is who provides performance-based contracting services to submit bids, so we can consider multiple firms. So that was our intent, was to be flexible and open.
So on page 3, item 1.2, performance-based contract. A performance-based contract means contract that provides improvements, upgrades for water, wastewater, energy, efficient equipment, associated services in which performance-based contract provides certain guarantee under the contract, shift the risk of cost, constructability, and ongoing performance of major plant improvements. Can you be more specific? What does that mean?
No, I don't believe you want to be more specific on it. That's what you want to look at their qualifications based on a more general. We want to do repairs, we want to do the upgrades, and we want to look at what we do moving forward. And we don't want to be limited to only one solution it gets back to the previous discussion. We can get so specific that we eliminate people.
Okay, so we're avoiding being specific.
Yes.
Okay. Saying on 1.4 eligibility bidders must be accredited by NAES CO Energy Service Provided and provide proof of certification. only qualified performance-based contractors with a minimum of 3 comprehensive performance-based controls for wastewater plant improvements will be considered. 1, what is NAESCO, and what is ESCO, Energy Services? What are those two? What is that service? Is it a service? Is it, I mean, what is and why? What is accredited? What is the upside of being accredited? What's the downside of being accredited? Help me understand what does that mean?
Sure. I can try to help you.
Okay.
So this is different than the typical bid, design, build. We are wanting a performance-based contractor. So they're going to be able to do similar improvements as the typical process. However, they're going to also be able to certify that whatever improvements they make are going to improve the operations and efficiencies of that facility. So those, I guess, abbreviations are based on the energy aspect for those companies.
Okay.
And part of the,
One's accredited and one's not.
One's
Yeah, but what-
bondable,
but
one's not.
But what is it? That's what I'm asking. Does anybody know what NAESCO is? It's an accredited program. It's accreditation. I'm asking because I went ahead and looked it up. And so, National Association of Energy Company Services. This was, so it has a board of directors. So this is the National Association of Energy Service Companies. NAESCO is leading advocacy and accreditation organization of energy services companies dedicated to modernizing America's building infrastructure through performance contracts. Who is on the board of Troy Yiannopoulos, the CEO of Efficiency Network? As I started reading through this, and then I wanted to ask, then I asked the question, what is ESCO company? It's a major key player operating electrical service companies, ESO Industries, Schneider Electric, General Electric, Siemens, Honeywell, Johnson Controls, Orsted, Easton Corporation, Alkeep, NLX, and Riola. You know,
All of those are manufacturers.
and that's what I'm trying to figure out. What are we? There's a part here where we're talking about of what we're trying to achieve here. Maximize energy savings, revenue enhancement, cost reducing strategies for the city of Odessa. Implementation of the project is essential. So we want to be able to make improvements that will reduce our electric bill. We've talked about that. What we want to do is the system that we have when the sludge, you know, do we modernize that because we're dumping it at the at the landfill, but we're dumping the water, you know, and we got away from the aeration pads. And so we looked at that as being a savings. Do we go back to the old system, or do we do another type of system? Cost reducing strategies, you know, by improving, going more automated, things of that nature. So when we're talking about electric companies, we don't want to generate electricity,
If you
generate
do,
power, but we do want to generate savings. So I guess my question is here is if we're wanting to be more open, is it necessary to have the accredited? Because this is going to exclude. And anybody says it's not, it's going to. So is it necessary? Is it mandatory? Or is it something that we put in? This is why I'm asking who wrote this, because this looks like industry-written content. I've done enough government contacting in my life to recognize this as an industry driven by some of the companies that do this. Being a small company, I came up against a lot of this, and so there's some things that you just can't compete because you're just not one of the big boys.
Okay, let me address a little bit of that. First off, do you want to get into the situation you're just talking about whenever we talked about the on-call thing where we don't have qualified people? Then maybe you're checking the boxes and are able to do some of the
Are we
work.
there? Is that what the situation? Are we there now?
Also, some of the ways that we pay for this, because we can't pay for this,
Yeah.
is through the savings and
Yeah.
through the guaranteed savings. again, that's part of the reason that we have these accredited companies, because they can do this. So those, I want qualified companies.
I'm sorry?
I want qualified companies. I don't want Floyd Gwynn at our Darrington unit. I don't want Baudry Road at our Darrington unit. So would I know what the specifics of the acronyms mean?
Yeah.
No, but I can run off 100 different acronyms here that no one's going to know what are,
Yeah.
but they're going to want them.
Yeah, it's like the IPMVP. What is that? Yes, sir, go ahead.
So what I've found out is there's two different types of categories. There's a ESCO, which is Energy Service Company, and then there's a ESP, which is an Energy Service Provider. This NAESCO is just the accreditation umbrella that all of these, both ESCO and both ESPs are under. So when I did a search, the two companies that we're talking about are both under the NAESCO. So they're both under that accreditation.
PSI and Johnson.
Right.
As are others. We'll get some more whenever we.
Yeah, I did a quick search on that.
If you all
Yeah,
don't
they're-
have too big a problem with it and we are able to issue this, we will get others too,
Yeah.
that are also going to be under
Yeah,
that.
we just want to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to we want options besides just two that we've seen. This is a big project.
Yes.
And
On this one, it's just important that we include ESCOs and ESPs, basically, on the RFQ.
do we need to add that to the RFQ?
It falls under that umbrella, correct?
Yeah, the umbrella covers it.
Mr. Mayor, also, we had companies that were willing to finance part of this reconstruction stuff. Are they still, is this part of something that's what we're still looking at? So if one of these companies wants to finance, putting his products in there and finance this deal where it comes with the construction of this, that they are the one carrying the bill on this. So at one time, we had two contractors in here that were talking about this.
Well, I mean, if it doesn't have that component, we don't have the money to do it. It has to be through savings. But if the NAICS is the umbrella and it covers it, can we not? Is there a reason why we cannot add the other language in it? Because I'm not, do we have anything written that assures if we keep the NAESCO that it will include the other two certifications?
We can definitely add it if you would feel more comfortable that way. That way it's all inclusive.
It's like when the reason why I don't want to get caught into a pigeonhole, because here lately, and we're going to have another item down here that I'm a little perturbed about, that we keep coming back because somebody missed something somewhere, and we keep coming back and reducing the price and delaying the project because somebody didn't catch something and that was kept telling, basically as they should have looked at and didn't. We either get pigeonholed where we come back and redo it, or we make it so restrictive that we wind up getting only two. It's like writing a document and you include everything that you can think of, then try to include everything that you don't think of, and then you still don't stop there and you continue, and then it becomes a Word document that's just like, oh my God, are we getting paid by the word or the letter? But sometimes you feel like it's necessary. I just want to, I echo, I don't want to get pigeonholed, don't want to be so rigid, but also don't want to be too flexible. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Looking for that middle ground, so if we can add that, I would be a little more comfortable with it.
So do you want to postpone this to the next meeting?
Well, this is just, were we making a decision today?
This was just a discussion,
Just a
but
discussion
Yes,
so
just
we can
discussion.
add things to it.
But we can come back with
I
it
think-
then at the next meeting.
Yeah, we can come back with it.
okay,
Okay.
we can do that.
Any other comments or discussion?
My only comment is this has been going on for over
I
a year.
know.
Mm-hmm.
We need a
We-
week going on
We're
it.
so far behind.
We've got a good RFQ, but we can make it better, and we can come back One of the reasons that we're here at this meeting is we got beat about the head and shoulders last meeting for time. And now we're going to come back in 2 weeks again.
Yeah.
So we'll do that, and we'll come back in 2 weeks after that if we need to.
Yeah.
But you've got a point.
I'm just, we got to figure out what we're going to do and get something going. We know it's going to be expensive. We just don't know how expensive.
Well, I mean, I was under the impression we were there, and then we had another player, then we started seeing all the delays. I was like,
Yeah.
let's get to the finish line.
Yeah.
Let's get to a point where we can sit here and discuss and make a decision.
What's going to make you feel comfortable on this RFQ? Adding what in here will make you feel comfortable on it.
Okay.
Well, I like the accreditations. I think that's important, personally.
Which we have.
Yes, I understand.
I guess we can just, I guess what I'm getting, what I'm hearing is, we can just add the language to allow ESCO and ESP that are both accredited under NAESCO. And it's a lot of letters, but yeah. That's,
Love acronyms.
Acronyms.
JCI and PSI do meet those
Didn't
qualifications. just for-
UIL
okay.
was used to, well, I don't want
What
to
are
get into
those?
that. Any other questions, discussions on this item? Thank you very much. Sorry for the interrogation. We're going to move on to item 6, discuss the lowering purchase of the old fire station number 6 by $25,000, accepting offer $270 for Town and Country Drug. Mr. Jones.
Mayor, council, let me remind you that this is y'all's decision. You can accept this or you can say no, the deal's over, okay? So this is something that is totally in y'all's court. John Harridge is here and Wayne Dunson is here. I don't believe the Prados were able to make it today. So, John, if y'all will, come on up. Wayne. So, Jimmy Peacock went and found the heirs. I believe Megan actually helped find the heirs. And Houston Smith's children. And they had initially wanted $100,000 apiece to execute the proper waiver to allow this to be turned into a retail business. And of course, that fell through, and I think they have reached probably, what, 12.5?
Correct.
Each. So the realtors are here, and they are here to ask council to reduce it once more from $295 to $270. So, and again, this is y'all's decision that you get to do. It's my job to bring it to you, and y'all say yay or nay. And I'll let John and Wayne plead their cases.
Well, just on it, there was a reverter clause that if the city ever sold the property, they get first rights to the property. And had an ordinance where it cannot be retail, it had to be for municipal only. And they wanted $100,000 each to sign off on that, but they've agreed for $12.5 each to sign off on it so we can sell it. This should be, hopefully, the last time we discuss the fire station.
I'm not too confident about that. That's what I heard the last time, and here we are again. How was this missed? This is simple. How was it missed? I'm not the type of person that says I told you so, but
Okay, another thing on how this was missed, usually when you do real estate, you do the title policy after the contract has been submitted. We hadn't even submitted a contract to Basin yet. And very luckily, the buyers hired their attorney to do this, to find it before it was a total surprise before closing.
okay, thank you for that answer. I think one of the things that we need to do, I don't know if this is the proper place to do it, but we're going to be dealing in real estate with the city. The last 3 years, we have dealt with property, and there were many in the community that wanted that property, wanted their hands on the property, be able to sell the property. This council has listened and made that response. In the process, we have gone back and forth with different opinions. You can donate it. No, you can't donate it. Property's been donated in the past, and just found out this a couple of days ago. After we were told we can't donate it. We've gone to clients that have jumped through so many hoops to become nonprofits and profits, and then opinions come in, well, I'm not comfortable with this and I'm not comfortable with that. We had to go back, and I've had people on the other line screaming at me because we're playing politics. Well, no, it's because we're trying to get right, because we have property that's been built on that has extended the city's liability. It is painfully obvious that we don't have the experience that we need to when we're dealing with, these type of properties that have the reverse clauses and things of that nature, because, I think somebody said in here, is that this is embarrassing, we're coming back again after, we wind up going through this whole process, getting everybody go out into bid, and people didn't. And here's the thing is, even the Prados didn't even want to make a commitment to be able to put what they wanted to put in as far as how they redesign, because they were afraid that even after they got it, they're saying, man, are you sure we have it? It was just, it's like a sense of uncertainty. And nobody should do that when they're going into some type of, this kind of process. It just became so complicated. Want to find a way how we can avoid this in the future. Because this should have been a simple transaction. And how long we been dealing this with now, John? When did we start this process?
6 January. It went out for bid.
January
in
of this year?
Yes.
And so how long has the fire station been abandoned now that we wind up moving into the new one?
man, probably 20-something, not that many years, not that many. maybe
21, 22?
Yeah, about 3 or 4 years.
And I walked, when I go by through there, I'm at the point where I'm just gonna go get my lawnmower and just mow it's still city property, we just have not maintained it. So,
We'll send code enforcement after you.
Can we just, is we can set up like some kind of task force, some committee to go back and review all the contracts of city-owned
The city properties.
That way we can,
man, you know what, I don't even wanna open that can of worms.
That's gonna be expensive.
Yeah, I just do, just
so
going
it's gonna
forward,
have to be on a case-by-case basis. And
Yeah, but maybe what we ought to do is like we do
go
on,
to Jimmy and just say, review this.
yeah, just, well,
He's the one that found it.
yeah, the things maybe we need to do is do like you do an oil and gas lease. Before you do an oil and gas lease, you go do title search. So
That's a good idea.
that's the way to solve
Yeah,
that problem.
yeah.
It's something, instead of waiting till the title policy's written.
And I agree, what we can do, if there's any other properties we are going to sell, we do a title policy
Right.
before we list it.
Because we were gonna get that
we
piece
have
of
that
property
long
on
list that we
52nd
turned
Street.
over. We do need to do a title search on those suckers. We can
Yes.
avoid this.
Yes.
We were gonna do that that property on 52nd Street, and to Habitat for Humanity. And of course, then somehow we knew that
We found a reverse.
we had revert,
Reverse clause, yep.
so,
Well, but
but that needs to happen before we get this deep into it, I guess is what I'm saying, John.
Yes.
so the question,
Yes, a preliminary search, yes.
the question here is reduce it for additional 25,000 and accepting the offer at 270. When we initially started that, I told John is that I feel that this property is about 250. It was my personal assessment.
Getting close.
I know. But I was hoping we'd go in the different. I wanted to be wrong on this one.
I think because of everything that's happened, I think it's just the least we can do is just accept this.
Well, the thing is, this is going to go back to the tax rolls. Okay.
That's the good news.
The investment's quite substantial. It's going to be quite substantial for the Prados. And so when this goes back on the tax roll, there's going to be impact fees. The 25,000 we'll be able to get back.
Oh, yeah.
That's not an issue. But the thing is that there was a revert clause. We didn't catch it till after the fact. The heirs generously came down quite substantially.
Yeah.
And so Prados have put a lot of time into it. They have a lot of plans for it. They are local. Town and Country has been how long? You were there at the ribbon cutting, weren't you?
I was. 1949.
49.
Wow.
4 generations.
Yeah. So, this is something that we need to see stay there. So, you see where I'm going with this. So, council, any discussions?
I think
Move forward.
with the
Consensus?
with the heirs and everybody else giving it, I think we just need to put this into bed.
Move forward.
Okay, one more thing.
Oh, no.
That's it. He's done.
Instead of the original contract with a million amendments and all this other stuff, let's start with the clean contract with this price and move forward.
Yes. Yeah. That thing's been redlined to death.
Net
Yes, sir.
net of commission, of course.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
So 270,
John ignored that one, didn't he? I said net of commission, of course.
sounds good.
Okay, thank you.
We don't want to see again on this one, John.
Mayor, council, well, you're gonna get to see him one more time because he's gonna prepare the contract, send it to us, we're gonna put it on for 2 weeks from now.
Yeah.
And you're gonna get to accept it, then we're gonna start over again on the ordinance.
Yeah. Yeah, because we
So
gotta
we'll be
change
back
We
it.
on-
gotta do, yeah, so
Yeah, we
we're
gotta
looking
change
at
the
the cap over again.
Yeah.
So we'll be back 2 weeks to accept it. I'll bring it to you to sign it, then I'll see you at closing.
And so it's 30-day ordinance, is that correct?
Or-
After
yes,
the
2
contract
weeks.
is accepted, so
So-
within 30 days,
So
we
2
start the
weeks from
process?
now, we're gonna accept, the council will hopefully accept your contract for
But we-
270.
But we have to amend the ordinance. don't we?
We're gonna start all over with it fresh, and then we're just gonna do,
Two readings.
so you're looking at 6 weeks, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we can close in 6 weeks. We'll do a little longer because we're going to do an appraisal and it's
Yeah.
a loan. So, okay.
Government is fast.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
The contract does say on or before, so hopefully we can do it before.
We're going to move on to item.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. We're going to move on to item 7, discuss amending section 8-1-6, entering restroom opposite sex, city code of ordinances. Councilman Haney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council, distinguished guests. I'm here to propose a bathroom ordinance. And people say, why do we need an ordinance? Well, why do grown men go into women's bathrooms? Why do men go into women's dressing rooms? Why do men go into locker rooms that are not theirs? This was unheard of 20 years ago when we wrote this city ordinance, but yet we wrote this ordinance to protect the bathrooms. So with the changes of everything that's going on here, the ordinance of 89-81, it was to tell the men which bathrooms to go into and the women which bathrooms that they would be using. And this was represented by their birth sex, which is either male or female. So what's also going on is we have a president that just passed a written, bypassing Congress. He just wrote a
Executive order.
yes, against the Title IX, which allows men to play women's sports. Well, by doing this, he has opened up to, are these same men are going to go into the same dressing room with the women? Are they going to do this? And so with everything that's going on, we are asking that we pass this bathroom bill. So the one thing that I have on this is that as a dad who raised 3 girls that played sports under Title IX that allowed them to get scholarships to continue to play sports in colleges, boys at the same schools had boys and girls rooms, and they had their own dressing rooms. They didn't share the same rooms. They didn't go into the same rooms. I now have granddaughters that are playing sports that are now threatened to have boys dressing with them. I am here to protect them. I was elected to do what my constituents say to do. But most of all, I do what my God says. If you think that this will not spread to the churches, that men won't try to go into your daughters' and boys' rooms at your churches, you're wrong. We were told that if the state doesn't have this law already, we can only do city buildings. That means where our tax money is spent. That includes schools, hospitals, and colleges. If they don't do this, then all the tax dollars should and would be directed to those that do. Where do you think bills are started? At the ground level, at city levels, where we see the problems. I remind this council that we passed a COVID ordinance that other cities picked up. Then the state passed a similar law. If you're not willing to step up to protect our children, then go tell your daughters, your sons, your grandsons, and your granddaughters that you're not worth my time. There is no discrimination in this ordinance. There is birth certificate that says boy or girl. So I put this together, and I want to take a vote on this and discuss this with you guys.
Okay. Council, anybody have any questions?
Mr. Jones, is it legal?
It is, as far as what we've looked at, as far as the state of Texas in 2017 tried this, and it failed it went through the House, and I think it failed at the state Senate. It is as far as what we can do as far as our city-owned building restrooms. The problem that we're going to run into legally is trying to get private business owners to do it. That's going to be a little bit of an issue.
So what did you review in the state legislature? What was the bill in 2017?
It was basically restricting bathroom use in the gym is what it was in 2017. I believe the House passed it, and the Senate, it didn't pass the Senate, so it never made it to the governor's desk.
Okay.
So they were proposing transgender they're proposing, what am I trying to say?
I mean, it would be like to basically
there's
restrict
not a lot of bathrooms in California.
Boys to boys, girls to girls
Yeah,
bathrooms.
but they're like in California, they're just unisex. is the word.
Unisex.
That's what I'm
and
looking
family.
for.
They call them family.
Well,
So in section 1, and help me through this, the City of Odessa Code, Chapter 8, Offenses and Nuisance, Article 8-1, General Provision, Section 8-16, entering the restroom of opposite sex is hereby amended. So the original 8-16 is entering restroom of opposite sex. Is that the original?
Yeah. Well,
Because I'm seeing red, so usually we have
It's usually black and then red.
exist. Yeah, so everything's in
that
red.
is
So
correct.
that's why I'm asking.
Yeah.
What was the original? What did the original say?
Entering restroom of opposite sex, I believe.
And
so
who
what
does
did
it
the
apply
ori-
to?
So what did the original say, that it was prohibited?
Yes, it is prohibited.
So we already basically
We've already got it.
we already had it.
Pretty much, and this was done like in 1989. Ordinance 89-81.
I'd like to see the original, because this is all written in red. We always have the original and then what's proposed.
We can do that.
That would be helpful, because I like to be able to read it that way.
Yeah, this is the original.
Okay, so
Entering
the
restroom of
original is
opposite
basically
sex,
entering
period.
restroom of opposite sex. It shall be
Yeah,
unlawful
unlawful.
for any person to knowingly, intentionally enter any public restroom designated for the exclusive use of sex opposite of his or her own without permission of the owner, tenant, manager, leasee, or other person in charge of the premise.
Yeah. And
That's
then
the original.
What's been underlined is the new.
So the new restricted use of public restroom, changing the rooms and locker rooms based on birth sex. It was just the same thing in a different way.
Pretty much.
So you're saying the same thing, just in a different way.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
So we're trying to legislate
legislative.
businesses. We're trying to make business harder to do rather than easier to do. And who's going to police it?
Enforcement.
You gonna walk around with the birth certificate in your hand all the time?
That is
Go to the bathroom.
that is a problem for us actually enforcing it. So it's going to enforce a lot of things there.
If you got daughters and you got a man sitting in your bathroom, don't you think who's gonna call the cops on you? Who's gonna do this? You are. For me, I'm going in there and removing my daughter from that room, or I'm going in there and removing the man from that room.
Right.
Either way, it doesn't matter to me. But I'm just, right now is, what I'm trying to get done here is that we have colleges here that a president had just pushed a thing through, written, that isn't really worth the paper, but he's going to push this to our schools, he's going to push this to everywhere. So we're going to have elementary schools who, if that male teacher in there wants to go in the bathroom with the girls, he can go in the bathroom with the girls. There's nothing to prevent this. We can prevent all of this. We can prevent all of this. So when they have complaints that, hey, he's in here, and they're saying, hey, well, our president said this and that, they bypassed Congress. Of course, that's not, it should not ever be a law, but as we've seen before, anything that gets pushed is getting pushed as a law, and it's not a law. So I'm trying to get this thing stopped before it ever begins. And how else do you do this? But you're right, it covers everybody. It covers public as well as the city. And I got news for you. We have a lot of buildings that are in our name because you said this, that's tax money. So that includes the schools. So we should be able to do this in the schools. That money is allocated. We all have money. We as a city council allocate money to schools. We build their roads. We build everything for them. So as this, we should be able to control every bit of this. Yes, as a city council and our constituents. So.
In the original language of the ordinance, does it stop right there where it's crossed out, or does it, because everything that's underlined is new, correct?
Yeah, it stops right there. It's right above the legislative purpose.
What would be the enforcement on this? What would is there a fine, or?
It'd be a fine.
It's a $500 fine.
On down. On each. Yeah, so.
Okay.
I had a fine the first time I wrote this up, but that got kicked out. But then, as it became continuous abuse of this deal, was for the businesses to lose their license through the city. That was the next step into this deal. Was if they're going to continue to do this, then they would lose their business license with the city. But
You're saying this-
I do understand that is really, we can't do that. But hey, I'm sorry.
He's talking about the certificate of occupancy.
Yeah.
So the legislative purpose to ensure the privacy and safety of all individuals using public restrooms, changing rooms, and locker rooms in city-owned buildings. Establish clear guidelines for the use of facilities in city-owned buildings. Doesn't the original 8-1-6 entering the restroom of the opposite sex, it shall be unlawful for any person to knowingly and intentionally enter any public restroom designated for the exclusive use of sex opposite his or her own without permission of the owner, tenant, manager, leasee, or the person in charge of the premise. Wasn't that already established according to that?
In my opinion, yes, sir, it is.
Definition. For the purpose of the section, following definition shall apply. First, sex. Sex designation of a person birth based on that person's reproductive system and other physical characteristics. Public facility, any restroom, changing room, or locker room in city-owned building. So it's okay, go ahead. Mr.
Well, I'm sitting here looking at the same thing, and number one, or section D solves it. If you want to go that direction, we should do unisex facilities. That it finds it right there, then you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
Stops all that stuff.
Well,
I'm just for less regulation than I am for more.
Do you worry about a unisex bathroom that's multiple bathroom?
It's what?
Can you create a unisex multiple bathroom, which means everybody can go in at the same time?
No, it clearly says here.
It just says unisex. It doesn't say how many stalls or anything.
City-owned buildings, accommodating individuals who prefer more privacy. Unisex facilities must include floor-to-ceiling walls, doors, and the doors must be able to be securely locked from the inside. Solves the problem. You can't just walk in.
Okay. What about the men walking into the locker rooms already in facilities here in town?
But we're dealing with, this is in schools. Is that what you're talking about? Or changing rooms?
Changing rooms, locker rooms, whatever you want, whichever one you want, is that we're allowing, because of the one deal that the president is doing, this is allowing men to participate in girls' sports. And it's not limited just to them participating, because the questions were asked of it, and he said that, no, they would be able to use the same locker rooms as the women. So I do have a problem with all of this, and if we don't get on top of this, even if it starts right here for the state to finally, because when we did the other bill, we had every city calling us wanting to copy what we did. What's wrong with this, doing this again? Because once it was copied, then the state picked it up and made it law. So what is wrong with it? It has to start somewhere. Why not start with us? Why not start with us?
Can you please just give us a moment to allow us to go through each and every line so we can understand it?
Sure.
We're not debating it. And no one here is belittling the importance of what's going on, that this is an issue. I got 4 granddaughters. I raised 2 boys. That is complete new to me. I've had to convince my granddaughter, don't let the girls go to the bathroom by themselves. He goes, well, the old ones goes with me. She can be victimized. And, we all understand, that this is important and that is an issue. Just want to be able to get there without creating overall regulation, and we want it to stand up. And all we're trying, I know for myself, I'm speaking strictly for myself, is I'm trying to go back and making sure that there is no redundancy. I'm not afraid of being sued. We've taken on some very bold initiatives, but I also want to make sure, City Attorney, did we research any organizations out there that have taken on this issue, that come up with language?
No, there's none that have actually sued or anything like that.
No, I'm not asking anybody sued. I'm asking any organizations that nationally have taken on, that have put together ordinances that have tested the time within other cities. I'm sorry?
To my knowledge, we would probably be the first.
It looks like to me the school district could have a policy.
Well,
They need to regulate themselves. We don't need to regulate businesses and school districts and colleges.
And that's the
Not our job.
is I don't think that we will be able to regulate the Ector County Independent School District.
Their property.
Their property tax,
We
I
will
don't
not be
think,
able to.
I mean, I believe in this wholeheartedly, for sure. I don't want,
I'd say,
boys in the girls' restrooms, but I don't know how we regulate the school district when it's our own taxing entity. But if we could get all 5 entities on board, this would be awesome.
so here's one thing you could do, is we could take this, we pass this, we send it to our ag, and let him look at this, see what he says, no goes, and then we can change whatever needs to be changed.
Can we send it to them before we pass it?
Are we talking about the Attorney General?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, we could send it.
You can always ask for Attorney
Ask for an
General's
opinion.
Yeah, I would ask for an
Always do
opinion
that.
before we take any legal action on that.
Yeah, we could.
a year from now when you get it. We'll try to remember what.
Because
Yeah.
in this section, facility use, each public facility, that goes beyond the city. Am I correct in that?
Well,
And that's where we're gonna run into.
Yeah, and that's what I'm asking. Are we overreach? I don't want to kick back because something like that, and then we're back like what we're doing with this property, and we're going back over and over
Yeah,
again.
yeah.
And it becomes more frustrating and
We are-
elongated.
We are overreaching just a tad bit.
I
Yes,
think we got more business to tend to than this. This is just a waste of time in my opinion. That's just me, that's personal.
Well, I like the premise of this, I really do, and I support it. My whole deal is just the overreaching, because it would have been great for us whenever we passed ordinance to ban the game rooms, if we could have extended it into the county also and enforced that, but we couldn't.
we couldn't, because
couldn't,
we
so
only
that's-
have.
that's kind of the same-
city limits of Odessa,
But that's kind of the same,
or jurisdiction.
that's kind of the same thing that we're trying to get here, though. We're trying to enforce the city ordinance
Yeah.
to the other taxing entities, to the county and to.
Something for the council. I want to say general counsel, something for the city attorney to look into, a catch-all that allows you to start off tighter and move out is you put something to the extent permitted by law. Then you can see how far you can regulate it, because there's gonna be an extent that the law allows you to go. And I know that, some of the school districts have put this in, and they've said to the extent that we're allowed by law, you're only going in your restroom designated for your biological sex. That
I
may
mean,
not
each one of
keep.
those entities have their own boards, like like we have our council, and so that's their decision, that should be their decisions. We should, I think it's way over.
You may have to go to court to find out what that extent of the law is.
That may be the next stop.
But that's fine, because you haven't shot yourself in the foot, and it's not struck down. You have, and I'm not a legislator or a lawyer, but you have multiple reasons why you do this. You want to pass this because you believe in it, just like I do, just like I think everybody in the dice does. But depending on how you write it is whether it's gone or it doesn't apply in some situations. You don't want it gone because you support this. But if it backs off of a situation, you still have the ordinance. So that's what we need to look to, is to the extent that it's legal. Because then even if you overreach and they say, look, you can't regulate the school, or you can't regulate the county, you still have what you have in place. And your whole ordinance isn't struck down at that point.
Council, do you have any recommendations, things you want to
Mayor,
convey to
council, we
the?
have a citizen that wished to speak on this item.
Yeah, let us finish our discussion. We'll bring up the citizen. Do we have any other discussions you want to convey to the city attorney, to Mr. Haney, and then we can bring up the citizen? Go ahead.
I'm just going to add that
Yes, sir.
the birth sex is what Councilman Haney is doing is more definitive in its term. Opposite sex is open to interpretation, and that's where we're getting the problem.
True.
True, a good point. It's a very good point. But there's some redundancy here. It's just cleanup. Section 3 of page 3 of 4 is the same as enforcement and penalties. Like more clarification in section 2.
I do like the language on the birth sex over the opposite sex. Yes, you're right. I mean, somebody can
Modification.
claim to, they can just claim now to be the opposite sex, and that's all it takes, so.
Interpreted.
Having gone through this in 2017 with SB 6, you got to be careful with that too, because as you know, as you all have seen, I'm sure, what determines your birth sex, it's not what the doctor holds up, it's what he writes down on that birth certificate. And so biological sex may be something that is more accurately used there, because biologically you've got a set of chromosomes. So I'm not trying to write things here, I'm just making suggestions.
But
Biological and anatomical.
this is why we brought this up in the work session, to work on this, to get something that's workable. So that's what we're doing here. We're trying to get this, some of these words and stuff, yeah, I wrote some of this. They wrote some of this, so let's combine whatever is good in this and let's make this work. And that's all I'm saying, is let's make this work, and let's at least give it a chance.
Well, we'll go ahead and just postpone this, come back with some changes, see about sending it to the AG, and see how timely that is. Okay. Go from that. We're gonna move on to item,
Excuse me, Mayor.
oh, I'm sorry.
We had the
Yes,
speaker.
Citizen coming up.
Jeff Russell, you have 3 minutes to speak if you'll state your name for the record.
Ready to go.
Good afternoon, Jeff Russell. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, City Council. Thank you, Mr. Haney, for doing work on introducing some improvements to this ordinance. I would like to share a few things with you. There have actually been 11 states that currently have laws on their state law books regulating the use of bathrooms by transgenders and things like that. Again, limiting it to a biological sex situation. So we would not be the first by a long shot. I know in 2017 this came up before the state legislature during a special session. The Senate passed it. Joe Strauss, who was the Speaker of the House at that point, never allowed it to come to the floor for a vote. It died in committee. And but You know, the other point I'd like to make is I think this is a very worthy effort. I know it's not without controversy. I know that there's, you know, it will stir some fights probably, but it's very worthwhile to protect our kids. I'm like some of the rest of you. I have granddaughters, and the thought of you know, a transgender man or whatever, someone of the male birth sex going into the restroom or the locker room with them makes me quite concerned. I'd also like to address the fact, you know, there's been quite a bit of discussion here about how the city can't, through ordinance, impose regulations on other entities. We do this all the time. Our ordinance books are replete with it. We have fire codes, and we have safety codes, and we have occupancy codes, and we have all kinds of codes that are administered by the city that apply to everything, including our other governmental entities. I can promise you that as the school district starts taking on building projects, if they're inside the city limits, they're going to be subject to city building codes and inspections and things. There's nothing unique or novel about that. So I believe you probably could do that. I do think it is a very prudent to take your time with it, work through the issues carefully, look at the language, seek very qualified legal counsel to end up with an ordinance that will work. And so I thank you guys for being willing to take that effort, because it seems wild to me as I approach almost 60 years old that we're having to even have these discussions. But here we are. We're having to have them, and I appreciate you guys not, you know, shrinking from the challenge of having to figure out this brave new world. Thank you.
Going to move on to item 8, discuss amending the city charter, section 46F, changing the period of time president can serve on city council, section 49, to correct the election date. I want to be able to ask a few questions. Kitty, can you come up with that? Yes, ma'am. We're gonna talk about the conversation we had. Real quickly, we had a conversation, had a misunderstanding of the court current ordinance as it exists. Person shall not serve a council member for a period of time that exceeds 8 years. Person shall not serve as mayor for a period of time that exceeds 8 years. Service prior to 2003. So, from my understanding, election city council members. What is that? We get feedback somewhere?
The gain's too high on the volume.
Oh, thank you. It's always that one. I wonder what the issue is.
They raised up his gain because they couldn't hear him.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
No, you're
I raised the volume.
Yeah. Right. So, I made a statement several years ago that and it wasn't theory, the way I understood it, that a person should serve 2 terms as a council member in the single district, then could then run as an at-large, and then run as a mayor, equating to 24 years. Am I correct in that?
That is not.
Okay.
The way it's written is you can be 8 years as a council member and then 8 years as a mayor. And council member includes the single district and the at-large.
Okay, so can but is it legal now under the current administration to run as mayor and then reduce yourself to a single district or at large?
It is.
You can.
Currently, that can be done, yes.
Okay. So what you're saying is the term limit right now is 16 years.
Correct.
Can you show me where and how that reads? And can we read it together to see if we all come away with that same understanding?
So, on the option 1A, which I think is the first page, so everything in black is what it says right now. A person shall not serve for a period that exceeds 8 years. shall not serve as a council member for a period of time that exceeds 8 years. And a person shall not serve as mayor for a period of time that exceeds 8 years. So that's what it currently says right now. So there's no distinction between district council member or at-large council member.
So, maybe it's just me, but I'm missing the boat here.
So, with the way it currently is, so the mayor could serve for 8 years.
Correct, as mayor.
Could serve as mayor, they could serve as an at-large for 8 years.
At-large or district.
Or district.
One or the other, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the biggest confusion is when we brought when the at-large came back, it might have been understood that that was two separate positions, but at-large and district are they're all considered just council.
Yeah, still districts. Okay. But again, I don't see the problem with that personally, because it's still at the will of voters.
No, I understand that, but the thing is that, once again, I go back to, a person shall not serve as a council member a period of time that exceeds 8 years, and a person shall not serve as a mayor for a period of time that exceeds 8 years. So you're basically telling me that everybody in Odessa is gonna term that as, oh, that's a term limit of 16 years, because none of us got that. So that right there is definitive. That basically tells me that that's a 16-year term limit.
Mm-hmm.
It does.
I agree. Two different.
No, you agree now because it's been explained, but nobody brought that up prior
No.
because nobody understood it that way.
I didn't understand it at all.
Yeah, no. You're saying, yeah, we understand it because it's explained. But take this outside of this room and go ask that person, and they're not gonna get it. You see, that's the problem when we wind up doing, and this has been the theme of the whole day. We're either too rigid or too flexible. And so I made that mistake, and until it was said, and I said, and basically I'm still saying, I'm like, okay, I'm still not getting, I still don't see it, maybe I want to be literal and I want it to tell me. One term in here that was used is how you interpret a contract, and I always thought a contract was literal until I heard that term, and then somebody walks away with $2 million because a contract was literal. And in this portion right in here, okay, could I make an argument here in a court of law? Yeah, doesn't mean that I'm right, but I could take this vagueness and make an argument. Yeah, I'm not saying that I would write or that I'd win, but I think there's enough vagueness in this, and this is why this whole thing of why I keep coming back and saying, hey, could we tighten it up, or well, we don't. And we leave the vagueness going on. And you're right. I mean, overall, to me, term limits is every election. But this has been a theme for several years that they wanted to see. I'm sorry, Tina, we're good.
good.
We're good, yeah.
Thank
And so, did you have a question?
Before she leaves, if you don't mind.
I'm sorry. Sorry about that.
I highlighted the very thing you just read, and the mayor asked why didn't we question it when we talked about it a couple of weeks ago or so. I'll be very frank with you. I also had a little bit of misinterpretation. When you see the wording, a person shall not serve as council member for a period of time that exceeds 8 years, either at large or single district. I took it further and said, well, what if I just enjoy being a civic involved person, and I happen to be representing District 3, and I serve my 8 years if I were to be reelected, and I'm done as a council member for District 3, but I happen to have an opportunity to move to District 2 where I can now afford a home over there, and can I run again? Is it saying to me no?
It is saying no, you cannot.
Remember, in the state of Texas, you're told what you can do, not what you cannot do. Even though this says not, it's telling you what you can do. You cannot serve but 8 years as a council member.
That's the interpretation, yeah.
It tells you, it doesn't go into, legislation should not go into you can't, accept this situation, that situation. it tells you what you can do, even though it's a negative, that it's telling you what you can do. You can be a council member for 8 years, and you can be a mayor for 8 years.
That's it.
That's it.
See, I'm all in favor of term limits because, you know, I think that's fundamentally what's wrong with our government. We don't have term limits. Their careers up there, they come out of there really rich. I haven't figured that out. $8 a meeting, I'm not figuring out that.
But
Did I
what it
get
doesn't
paid for this morning?
clarify is
No?
that if you run for mayor for 8 years, you can step down and run for
Right.
the at-large district, which makes no sense. I mean, I believe once you reach mayor, you should not be able to go down as to the at-large. And that's the bigger picture here. So right now, the way it states, Mayor Hoven could run for at-large.
Yes. Or district.
Or District
Yes.
3. And
Yes,
I don't believe that that should be allowed.
And so one of the options that we have is that if you serve mayor, if you start as mayor, then you're done. That is one of the options
Yeah.
I put based on some comments that had been made.
Yeah.
So that's an option. So I mean, and I think that that would encourage persons to start as council, you know, do their 8 years. And you could do 4 years in your district, 4 years at large, and then you can move on to mayor. So that's one of the options that is here. Another, not so much an option, but I did, in the red, I added language that clarifies, I hope, that district and council, or district and at-large are the same. That's the little bit of red that you see right after F. And then the other issue is obviously prior service, because right now, everything prior to 2003 does not count.
And this
So
would
we would-
change to 2024.
So, and there are two different options. That's why there's two H's. One of them says that everything prior to '03 does not count, but anything between '03 and '24 would count. Or anything before '24 would not count. The reason there's two options there is if we opted for anything before 2024 doesn't count, everyone serving, you know, in this term would get an extra term.
Right, because we were elected in 21.
Yeah.
Or 20.
20. Late, this,
20.
yeah.
Yeah, so those of you who have been on for 4 years, you would get an extra 4 years, and those for 2 years would just, you would get an extra
So
term.
we didn't.
So there's lots of
we had to
options.
go another 30 days.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay?
Well, I'm all about term limits. I don't mind that at all, Mayor. I think we got to, you know, I'm all about term limits, so.
Well, for me, if I were choosing today, I'd go with that election city council G. But that's me where you would be ineligible to serve as council member large from mayor going down. Down.
And that's option 2B is what I'm.
2B. And so.
Option 2B.
No,
Should
here we
a
go.
person serve as mayor for a period of 8 years, that person would be ineligible to then serve as a council member,
Period.
period.
Basically telling me, you're done.
You're done, yeah.
I'm fine with that.
So I'm all about it. I mean,
I'm fine with that.
That's what's wrong with our government today. so.
Because option 2B, the item F is the same as we have current, right? The only thing it's adding is just that the mayor can't run for a district or at large. Okay.
What a council member actually is, at large or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. That's a discussion. All right. Any other discussion on that?
Okay.
To be.
Are y'all gonna do a consensus
To
to bring this back for a vote in a couple of weeks?
Oh.
We are looking at-
Down here.
Yeah. Consensus put back at the council agenda for the end of the month.
Any,
Oh, I'm going for, I'm going for 2B.
I prefer-
2A?
I prefer
2B.
2B.
Well, 2BG.
Or 2B includes G.
Okay.
Completely.
Just trying to understand. I only have 1 degree. I don't have 2.
Yeah.
Council, if we can go along with the election dates, I have those dates. The last day to order the election is August the 19th. So currently, I have the ordinance to go before council consideration July 23rd and August 13th. That way we can incorporate all the necessary information. We would have it by the end of July. I don't think we would have it at the end of June.
I mean, she needs time to put it all together.
Oh, yeah. What you're asking for, time.
Yes.
But it's the 19th for the general election.
That's the last day to
That's the
call
last
the
day.
election, but we'll call it, council will consider it on July 23rd and August the 13th. So we'll still have some time.
What do I have the 22nd in my head for? Okay, I don't know. I got August 22nd in my head.
Okay, so we'll just bring it
But
back
that's
then.
good, that's fine.
So Mark, the only difference in that, 2BF versus on page 1DF, is just prior to the 2003 general election? Is that the only difference in, that I'm seeing? That would be marked off?
The 2B, the 2B is basically the same as what we currently have.
Right.
It's just stating, it's just adding a statement saying that once you serve for mayor, you can't run for a district.
That's the difference right here.
Yeah, that's-
Then
okay, that's-
everything starts
You
after
can go the other way.
24.
Yeah, you can run as a.
So
yeah,
basically,
district
the
member and
service,
then-
anything before 24, is
See, I
it
think-
county, everybody starts at zero again.
So you as an example, I know you were a councilman back in the 90s. When I was a
But
whole-
even under the 2003 from the old ordinance, doesn't count to what's today.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's right, that's right,
That's
gotcha.
why we have this, because that's the precedent that was set prior to 2003. It doesn't count, well, it should be fair to y'all as well, prior to 2024, it doesn't count.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's just a precedent that's been set.
But using Mayor Hoban as an example, he wouldn't be able, after his term, he wouldn't be able to run for at-large or district.
So I'm limiting myself.
No te culpo, vato.
No, I think that's what Dan just said, the opposite of, because you're saying prior to 2024.
It won't count against
It
y'all.
won't
So you
count.
basically would have 16
So-
years.
So we have, okay,
Whatever.
never mind.
We reset it, I could actually run.
Okay.
That's,
Trust me, that ain't gonna happen. You can take that to the bank. So, okay, so,
Okay, thanks for that clarification.
yeah. So basically, we're looking at the 2B, right? Is that what we said?
Yes.
2B. 2B to move forward. Okay. Seeing that there's no more business before the city council, do I have
Mayor,
a? Yes.
council? The other item was section 49, date of election. Does council want to consider? The agenda item also included section 49 for the date of the
Correcting the regular
election.
municipal election.
Where's that? Where's that at?
Never updated on the
Oh,
charter.
I'm sorry, discuss the amending charter section, changing the period of 49 to correct the election date. Okay, that's the May, November? Is that what you want to discuss?
Yes, to include it in the proposition as a ballot.
Okay, first you got to explain to everyone on the dais what you're talking about when it comes to that date of election.
Okay, so the city council changed we used to have a May election. The city council changed to move it to the November election, which is the date allowed by the state to either have it in May or November. Once you move it to November, you cannot move it back to May. And so this will be on the ballot if council decides, so we can change it in our charter to reflect the November election.
Okay, my question to that is, why is it necessary? I mean, is it necessary to clean it up, or does the state, because it's already been established that we moved it to November, supersedes the
It does.
municipal, even though it's in the charter? I mean, I understand
The
the
state
clean it up,
supersedes.
but is the president said that, let's say, if somebody were to come and say, well, you know what, you have two dual items on the charter, which we do, because this actually came up, not discussing this dais, but it did come up when council put on an item on the agenda to bring back the at-large, because they went petition, they got the signatures, and then set the election, a discussion for May, even though the elections have been moved to November. And so discussed it with the lawyer and says, well, wait a minute, how's this, the charter supersede state? Because you moved the date to the general election in November, doesn't state supersede? I'm not a lawyer, I'm just making an argument here. Am I incorrect in my position? So, and I understand that we put it on, but if we put it on the ballot and clean it up, do we create confusion? Because does that person convey, oh, so I have a choice, I can have the May election? Because there are proponents that want it in May.
Yeah, most likely.
So if the initiative would fail, what would it mean? It stays as it is? Okay. Well, council, do you want to have a discussion on this? Do we need to put it on the,
I like Norma's idea to put it on there and say it would always be November election. We don't get good turnout in May. We don't get good turnout anyway.
Yeah.
At least it gives everybody a better chance to vote.
it's just language that never got taken off when
Yeah,
they moved it. What year was it moved? 2011?
Wasn't that long ago?
It's like people being put in the wrong district. That was about the same time of 2010. So, okay. So, in the next work session, can you bring us some, what that wording will look like, and we can discuss it then? Okay. All right. Any other item? Seeing that there's no more business before this city council, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
By Councilmember Swanner, second by Councilmember
I second.
Vasquez. All in favor indicating by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed indicating the same sign. Motion passed unanimously. We are adjourned. We'll see you.